October 27, 1962. The Cuban Missile Crisis is reaching its most dangerous moment. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, far beneath the surface, a Soviet submarine drifts silently through dark water. Inside, the temperature is above 45 degrees Celsius. The air is thick with carbon dioxide. The crew hasn't communicated with Moscow for days. Then, suddenly, boom! A violent explosion shakes the submarine. Moments later, another blast echoes through the hull. Outside, the U.S. Navy is dropping practice depth charges, small explosives meant only as warnings. But the Soviet crew doesn't know that. Inside the vessel, alarms scream, men shout. The submarine commander believes World War III may have already begun. And aboard this submarine sits a weapon capable of destroying an entire city, a nuclear torpedo. Within minutes, the officers must decide, launch or hold fire. One man will say no, and that decision may have saved the world. His name was Vasili Arkhipov. Born in 1926 in a small Russian village, Arkhipov grew up in the shadow of World War II. He joined the Soviet Navy as a young officer and quickly built a reputation for calmness under pressure. But by 1962, the world had entered a new kind of war, the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a global standoff, each armed with thousands of nuclear weapons. Arkhipov was assigned as second in command of a Soviet submarine squadron. His mission seemed routine: travel secretly to the Caribbean, patrol near Cuba, and remain undetected. But Arkhipov didn't know that the submarine he boarded carried something extraordinary: a nuclear weapon. 2 weeks earlier, American spy planes flying over Cuba photographed Soviet nuclear missile bases under construction. President John F. Kennedy called it unacceptable. If those missiles became operational, they could strike most of the United States within minutes. The world suddenly stood on the edge of nuclear war. The U.S. responded with a naval blockade of Cuba, determined to stop Soviet ships from delivering weapons. But while the world watched the surface of the ocean, another battle was unfolding beneath it. 4 Soviet submarines had already slipped into the Atlantic. Each carried a weapon no American commander knew about: a nuclear torpedo, roughly as powerful as the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. And one of those submarines was B-59. October 1962, American naval forces begin detecting strange sonar signals near Cuba. A Soviet submarine is hiding below. U.S. destroyers and aircraft begin surrounding the area. Their orders are clear: force the submarine to surface, but they must avoid escalating the crisis. So the Navy uses practice depth charges, small explosive signals meant only as warnings. The problem is, no one told the Soviets. Deep below the ocean, the crew of submarine B-59 hears the explosions, and they interpret them as something very different. To them, it sounds like the opening shots of war. Conditions inside the submarine were brutal. The B-59 was a diesel-electric submarine, not nuclear-powered. That meant it had to surface frequently to recharge batteries. But surfacing near Cuba was dangerous. Aircraft were everywhere, so the submarine stayed submerged for days. The temperature climbed above 113 degrees Fahrenheit, 45 degrees Celsius. Oxygen levels dropped, carbon dioxide levels rose. Crew members began fainting, equipment started failing, and the submarine had lost radio contact with Moscow. They had no idea what was happening in the outside world. Was war already underway? No one knew. Then the explosions began. American destroyers surrounded the submarine. One of them was the USS Beale. Its crew dropped small practice charges into the water. Each explosion echoed through the submarine's metal hull. Inside the B-59, the explosions felt massive. The submarine shook violently. Lights flickered, pipes rattled. To the exhausted Soviet sailors, it felt like a full-scale attack. Commander Valentin Savitsky was furious. He believed American forces were trying to destroy them, and if the US had started attacking Soviet forces, that meant only one thing: war had begun. B-59 carried a secret weapon, a T-5 nuclear torpedo. Its explosive yield was estimated at 10 kilotons, similar to the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. If launched against the US fleet above them, it could destroy multiple ships instantly. But Soviet protocol required something unusual. To fire the nuclear torpedo, 3 officers had to agree: Captain Valentin Savitsky, political officer Ivan Maslenikov, and flotilla commander Vasili Arkhipov. 2 votes were already clear. Savitsky believed they were under attack. Maslenikov supported him. They both wanted to fire. Savitsky reportedly shouted, "We will die, but we will sink them all." If Arkhipov agreed, the torpedo would launch. Arkhipov listened carefully. He understood the situation, but something didn't feel right. If the United States had truly started war, why were the explosions so small? Why weren't they trying harder to destroy the submarine? Arkhipov argued with the captain. He insisted the explosions were signals, not attacks. The debate grew intense. The submarine was overheating, the crew was panicking, and the world above them was already on the brink. Finally, Arkhipov proposed a different option. Instead of firing the nuclear weapon, they should surface and wait. Savitsky hesitated, but eventually he agreed. October 27, 1962. After hours of tension, the submarine slowly rose toward the surface. When B-59 finally emerged from the ocean, American ships surrounded it. American sailors stared in shock as the Soviet submarine broke through the waves. But the Americans had no idea how close they had come to disaster. Just a few hundred feet below them, a nuclear weapon had nearly been launched. Instead, the submarine turned around and began the long journey home. The world never learned about the incident at the time. The Cuban Missile Crisis ended days later when the Soviet Union agreed to remove missiles from Cuba. In return, the United States secretly agreed to remove missiles from Turkey. Nuclear war had been avoided. But the terrifying moment inside submarine B-59 remained classified for decades. It wasn't until 2002, 40 years later, that historians finally uncovered the story. By then, Arkhipov had already passed away. The story shocked historians and military experts because it revealed something deeply unsettling. The fate of the world had not depended on presidents or generals. It depended on 3 exhausted officers in a submarine. If Arkhipov had agreed with the captain, a nuclear torpedo would have exploded near the US fleet. The United States likely would have responded with nuclear weapons. The Soviet Union would retaliate, and within hours, much of the planet could have been destroyed, all because of a misunderstanding in the ocean. Today, the Cold War feels like distant history, but the lesson of B-59 remains chilling. In the darkness of the Atlantic Ocean, with the world on the brink of annihilation, one man paused. He questioned the assumption that war had begun, and he refused to fire. That man was Vasili Arkhipov. History rarely remembers the moments when disaster doesn't happen. But on October 27, 1962, the world survived because one man said no.